Welcome to Sober.Coffee, a weekly coffee chat sharing experience, strength, and hope for anyone on the sober road to recovery. You can download Sober.Coffee weekly on all podcast platforms and check us out on Instagram at Sober.Coffee Podcast and on Twitter at Sober.Coffee Pod. To learn more about us and to help support these sessions, visit online at Sober.Coffee. Here are your hosts, two guys on their own path to recovery, Mike and Glenn. Let's join them at the coffee shop.
So a little behind the scenes, right? So we go back to back on our episode records, and then I know I'm probably blowing the vision for everybody out there, but we don't technically come into the studio once a week. We come in once every 6 weeks, do 6 episodes, and then they drop, right? So we're
not Joe Rogan.
We're not Joe. No, right? Yeah, we don't go live, right? Because we got all this editing we do. By the way, how many times have we edited?
I don't think Hughes goes live.
No?
Oh, it's funny because we have a guest coming up, and we've got her from social media, and she's like, "Well, I'm really nervous, but but you guys will edit out." I'm like, "Hey, one slight detail." I'm like, in 240 episodes,
Yep.
I'm like, we have never
edited out.
It's,
We said our last
Brian
name.
saves a shit ton of time on editing.
I know, right?
Right, Brian?
Oh,
Did we really? I thought we rolled with that.
We rolled with it. I don't know. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Then we did it once. Mikey said his last name.
So anyway, back to my recap. So we just finished an episode up, and we used to come in with, at least me, I used to come in with notes and diagrams, and I had the whole thing going, and so we just were rolling into this episode right here, and Brian goes, "Are you guys ready?" And Glenn goes, wait, we're not ready. And then like 18 seconds later, we bantered back a couple of things, and he goes, yeah, okay, we're ready. So what you're about to hear is produced in 18 seconds of preparation, which is really good for the topic because
but that's the whole purpose of the topic.
It's the whole topic. It's rapid fire. So what we're going to do is we are going to do rapid espresso shots. And we're just going to bounce some questions back at one and forth, back and forth with one another, and just questions, putting you on the spot, questions about sobriety, questions about the program, questions about whatever. Glenn has no idea what I'm going to ask. I have no idea what he's going to ask, but we're just going to rapid fire our responses.
All right, so you have 3 and I have 3.
Yeah,
right?
okay, right.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. Today, Glenn, you are sober for?
9+ years.
Okay. But why are you sober? You're sober for who, what, why, or when? Why are you sober? You're sober why?
Well, I'm sober for me because I could.
That's it right there.
I could not live another day in the way I could not live another day of alcoholic hell.
Right. So you're sober for you. Same thing with me. I'm sober for me because I tried getting sober.
But I'm sober for you too.
I know, but I tried getting sober for Nancy.
Yep.
I tried getting sober for the kids.
Shit doesn't work.
I tried getting sober for my job. I tried getting sober for my health.
That works 20 minutes.
Right. Yeah.
You tried to get sober so they let you back in Vegas.
That's right.
That didn't work.
That didn't work, and I'm still on the wanted list.
Yep.
Okay.
Get sober for you. Okay. Some say AA doesn't work.
It worked. It worked for me. I can't tell you. I'm sure it didn't work for some people. It worked for me. And what I learned is that I had to be all in. I had to buy all in. I couldn't take pieces and bits of it and then expect it to work. I needed to be all in.
So what's one reason why AA does not work for people?
Because you don't work it.
That's fucking true, man. That they just don't surrender.
No.
So what I've seen, and I've asked some pretty big people. Mm-hmm. I've asked Dr. John, 45 years addiction doctor, right? And I asked one of my mentors, Justin Furstenfeld from Blue October. He's the lead singer for Blue October, and he's in AA, and he's sober 12 years. And I said to him, I met him in a meet and greet, and I'm like, people say AA doesn't work. What do you say? He goes, they haven't surrendered.
Right.
He goes, they haven't surrendered and worked the program. They're in their own ego. They're in their own program, and it will never work until you surrender. So I love it.
Love it. You do 26 things a day, a week, a month, a year.
Yep.
Right? you've held firm at that number of 26 because it used to be 23, then it was 25, now it's 26.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to revise the list?
Well, first of all, I'm not going to take anything off.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for that is I don't know what the right number is, but what I know is 26 works. And I think the fact that it grew from, I think the first time I did the list it was 22 and now it's 26, I think that is evidence of continued growth and commitment to my sobriety, which I think is amazing. Mm-hmm. And I can't think of number 27. Mm-hmm. I don't know what else to do. 26 was, so I think 24 was this podcast.
Yes.
25 was I'm on the board of Arcosa, the Sober Living.
26 is the project we can't talk about.
The stealth
yes.
recovery project that I can't talk about yet.
Right.
And you know what? I don't have any more bandwidth. I don't have any more time. I'm saying no to too many people. Mm-hmm. What I think would be, and it's not number 27, mm-hmm. but it's one of my 26 is I sponsor guys.
Right.
I'm thinking one of the things that and all my guys are on cruise control mm-hmm. per se, right? We're never on cruise control, but let's just say I don't have to spend a ton of time with them. It's more check-ins instead of really detailed sessions, and I think my life would value in 2025 getting a new sponsee, mm-hmm. right? I think that would be a tune-up for me in my sobriety because I work the steps along with them. I think that'd be great.
That's awesome. And my response to my question to you is, I really need to take inventory of how many things it is I do. I don't have that definitive number, and I think there's a value to having that definitive number because it gives you a benchmark that you can go back off of and say, hey, am I checking these things off my list? Because I know I fluently go through sobriety and recovery, and I do things like write the blogs, do this podcast, go to meetings, work with my sponsees, serve in the community, again, like you said, to help Arcosa the best I can, serve in my community, serve my AA community. There are things that I'm doing. I'm going to social events, which is really a stretch for me because mm-hmm. I don't like to go to social events, but I'm going to social events because it's working for me. It's one of those things. So that was my challenge to myself is I really kind of need to put the list out there and know, is it 8 things, 18? It doesn't matter. I'm not trying to get 27 to beat you. Just what are the things that are working for me? I think I need to identify.
First of all, I don't think the number matters. I think the fact that you have a list matters. So
yes.
my challenge to you is I think you should write a blog about your list.
Yeah, I love that. I could do that.
And I think I think you should reflect, spend some 3 a.m. time reflecting on the stuff you do for sobriety and you make a list. Again, the number doesn't matter.
No, right.
And then secondly is, a follow-up thought is I just did a presentation to a AA group of doctors on relapse. And what I reminded myself is it's good for me I should probably revisit that list on a monthly basis, right? Mm-hmm. Just to refresh and just rejuvenate my commitment to my sobriety,
right?
Because you just go through life and you're like, yeah, I'm sober and I do a lot for sobriety. Mm-hmm. But when I went through that list, first of all, that's a real concrete list, mm-hmm. And it's almost like I do a pulse check, right? Like accountability. Am I just as accountable today as I was a year ago?
Great advice.
Am I still open to accountability?
Yeah, right. Great advice. Okay, shoot.
Okay. Person this week, we were talking about sponsors, right? Mm-hmm. And they said they have a great sponsor. I'm like, well, tell me about your sponsor. I'm like, well, my sponsor's on step 3. And I was like, what? I'm like, so you have a sponsor who hasn't worked all the steps, mm-hmm. right? Now, I get it. There's going to be people out there who say, well, Bill Wilson didn't have a sponsor, and back in that day, they were sponsoring people before they were finished mm-hmm. with the steps, and they did the steps in a week, or they did the steps in a mm-hmm. day, or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. First of all, I think it's impossible to do the steps in a day. Or a week. I just do. I just think there's a psychic change that is required and happens over time from working the steps.
Well, and doing them right.
Correct.
Doing them right
because
you got it right. You can blow through them just like I can blow through a book, or I can really read the book. I mean, it's two different really read it and engage it and embrace it.
Right. It's like back in the day, cavemen ate raw meat, right? Because that's the only option they had. But now today we have options of cooking our meat. So let's take advantage of cooking our meat and just don't look at the cavemen and say, well, they didn't cook their meat. We don't have to cook our meat, right? Just sit there and say, well, just because, the early AAers did it this way, we have better advantages today. We have more tools today, and it's a different landscape and environment today. So I think, and I'm reminded of that dude who was literally on step 3 in our groups, and he was putting out billboards and advertisements. He was a available sponsor. And guess what? He relapsed. Every one of his sponsees relapsed. So I'm not judging them. I'm just learning from what does not work. That was very clear evidence that was a failure plan. So in general, and I'm not saying there's not one superstar third stepper out there that can't be a good sponsor. I don't want to hear that crap. What I'm saying is, in general, you have to have a sponsor who has worked the program, believes in the program, and lives the program, and is committed to sponsoring you.
If I got 2 choices to learn how to play basketball from somebody who's got a championship ring or somebody who's just coming into the league, I'm gonna want to be coached by the guy who's got the championship ring. That's
what people do in early sobriety, and that's a phenomenal analogy, metaphor, whatever the word is. People gravitate at times. I've watched this happen. They will gravitate to the path of least resistance. They'll gravitate to the easy one. So they'll go to the new one in the league just because, they can relate to me.
He's available.
He's available. They can relate to me better. They're easy to talk to. They're more like me. They look like me. They dress like me. They're just easier. But they're not better.
So what's the question? The question is, does the sponsor need to have worked the steps? Is that the question?
Yeah, find a sponsor who has worked the steps.
I agree.
And who is committed to AA and who lives the AA program. And because what you want is what they have.
Yeah, there you go.
And are willing to go to any length to get what they have. Yep. If you don't have it, you can't give it away if you don't got it. So, if you haven't worked the steps, you ain't going to learn from them.
Right. All right, I got a question.
All right.
And I remember sitting in the rooms, in the meeting rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I was probably a year. No, I was certainly short of a year. I was maybe 6 months. I'm trying to figure the whole thing out, right? And again, I wanted to figure the whole thing out. And what I asked in the room, and I remember exactly who was in the room at the time, and I never got an answer. So I'm counting on you to give me the answer. You ready?
Yep.
Okay. Out of all the elements, the sections, the directives from Alcoholics Anonymous, what is the most important? There is service, there is spirituality, there is working the steps, there is the principles of the steps, there is doing the next right thing. What if I needed to put wind behind one sail, what is it? Is it the spirituality? Is it service? And that was the question I posed, and what I got from a room of 11 people was 11 different responses. So can you talk to me about what you think the most important thing is, or do you see where everybody's going to be a little different, maybe? And I don't want to put an answer in here.
So I would say the 11 different responses quickly surprised me, but then it quickly did not surprise me. I believe there are different stages and maturity and growth and experience of sobriety. I would say somebody in earlier sobriety would answer that differently than somebody. I think somebody with 6 months would answer differently with somebody with 5 years and 10 years.
But if you had 2 guys with 5 months, you're probably going to get some pretty similar responses. Is that what you're suggesting?
I think so. Maybe not, because maybe their experiences are different.
Right.
Maybe their sponsors are different. Their sponsor relied more on service than So that's a great question.
Well, let me just ask you: what is the most important element for you?
Now, the reason I answered the first time is because my answer today is concretely my answer. It would not have been my answer at 6 months, 1 year, 3 years, 5 years.
Okay.
My answer today is spirituality.
Okay.
That is the absolute rock solid foundation part of my life. But I never would have said that until probably year 7.
Mm-hmm. That's
right.
Very comforting, I think, to a lot of people,
because it
myself.
took a long. Well, if you go back, if folks go back and listen, we did a sister podcast, which really highlighted, or cousin, was it cousin or sister? Sister podcast that really focused on the spirituality part, and the podcast is called God as We Understand Him. And that's the words that are used in AA, or the references. And it talks about our path and our struggles and our questions and our doubts and our pissed off times and our glorious times and our, our championship times and our cheerleading times and the wins and the doubts. And I think all of that takes time. And, I had hurdles, and a lot of people do, of what we grew up with.
Right.
What the God I grew up with and the religion I grew up with absolutely will never work for me. But the way and it took time to learn and to, shed all that bullshit and accept the reality of God and God's love and His forgiveness. That took time.
Right.
So today, without a doubt, early on, it probably would have been service, right? I did a lot of service. Get in the pool, right? Just get off my sponsor, man. Get off the bleachers, man. Get doing stuff, right? And I was doing stuff that was not good for me. I shouldn't say not good for me. It was great for me. I didn't like it. I was a small group teenage
high school
kids at church. I mean, oh my God, I hate kids, right? But I did it, right?
Did you put that on your resume at church? Like, I hate kids, but you got a gig for me?
I actually told them that. And they're like, we don't care. Go on this retreat. I'm like, I didn't sleep for 3 days. Like, I don't care. Go on a retreat. And I did it. I was compliant. I surrendered. I'll do whatever you tell me to do. And it took me some pretty crazy places. So that's a great question. Okay. And I have changed over time.
Awesome. Go ahead.
Now, there are people... We are pro-sobriety, right?
Yes.
So before I say this,
yes,
we are pro-sobriety, without a doubt, underlying exclamation point. With that said, there are multiple ways to get sober. And we're like, hey, man, if that's your thing, if create your own program works for you, hey, good luck. We celebrate you, right? One of the things is there's a lot of people out there. In fact, I saw one recently. He was kind of mocking AA, or AA doesn't work, but you sign up for his $5,000 coaching program, and he'll show you a way to get sober, right? What do you think about paid coaches, paid sober coaches?
Okay, wow, interesting. Didn't see the question playing out that way. I had to answer for a totally different question, because I think there's other ways to stop drinking. So I'm going to go ahead and answer. I'm going to go ahead and answer the question I thought you were going to ask. First of all, I think there's other ways to stop drinking, right?
Totally agree. There's a pill that you can take.
That's right. When we say the word sober and sobriety.
Oh, I love this.
Again, and I think this is going to be where we go with the paid coaches, because the program, I don't need a coach. The first 164 pages of the AA Big Book tells you how to get sober, and sober doesn't mean abstinence. It means a whole different way of life. It means I can't put words to it of what it means, the peace and serenity it brings with all the hassles that come with life. But you can still get through that, because we learn about things like acceptance and managing expectations and service and all these things. Paid coaches, what do I think? I think there's room for them, honestly. I think there's room for them, but I don't think you can exchange what I've experienced in AA is people not looking for a dime, not looking for a penny. They're not looking for a penny from me, and all they want to do is help me at my very core. They want me to be a better person. Now, is everyone like that in AA? Probably not. I mean, people are still battling with their own deficiencies, right? As I am. But for the most part, people selflessly give of themselves for my betterment. I don't think you can buy that level of commitment that I've found in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. That's just me.
Underline every bit of that. You know what just hit me?
What's that?
I think, did Brian turn your microphone off?
Hello?
Yeah, that's awesome. I think what just hit me, and it's funny because some of these coaches come across as ego-driven, right? You know, and just the framework, right? You know, some of them, I mean, I don't really check out the women sober stuff. It's men's sober stuff. But, you know, it's the macho man. It's the, hey, if you make over $200,000 a year and want to get sober, I got a program for you, you know? And you know what? I think that's so bullshit. But what just hit me is I believe, and I'm not saying this from an ego standpoint, I believe I have helped people in sobriety 100 times more than they have. And I haven't charged a dime.
Right.
And what it does for me is it feeds my soul and it feeds my sobriety to be able to reach out and share my mess, turn it into a message and help somebody else.
Right.
And they are shortchanging themselves by charging for that, right? Because instead of a gift, they're turning it into a transaction.
Yeah.
And I think that whole dynamic is all screwed up.
Yeah.
And I would be hard pressed. I think you'd be hard pressed. First of all, I have never seen a success story from that, a long-term success story. If you look at my sponsor and me, we have an amazing, and I probably should, if I paid that guy, I'd pay him $1 million.
Right. And celebrities do that. They pay big money for
totally. Well,
recovery.
you see these, you know, sober people out there, and you know, and so I just think, they're shortchanging themselves. What I know is my sponsor does shit for me from the bottom of his heart, for his sobriety,
right?
and he ain't doing it for
nothing
a dime,
in return,
right? So
yeah.
It's just a weird dynamic. I don't agree with it. I think there's a better way to do it.
Right.
I think instead of paying $5,000, you pull a dollar out of your pocket, you know, and you go to AA, you find a sponsor that'll be 50 times better and love you more and care for you more and care for your best interest more than any paid dude that's trying to fill a slot on his calendar and trying to fill his bank account.
Amen, amen, amen.
Boom.
Hey, great session.
Boom. Love you, brother.
Rapid shots.
All right, bye.
Talk to you.
Thanks for joining us for today's coffee chat. To contact the show, email us at podcast@Sober.Coffee. If you need immediate help, the AA hotline is 800-839-1686. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 800-273-8255. Remember, Mike and Glenn are sharing their own journey on the path to recovery. Any suggestions, medical or otherwise, are their own experiences and should not be viewed as professional advice. See you next week, and remember, there is a solution.